Instructional design has always been about creating learning experiences, and I'm here to show you that instruction can come from unconventional places and even unconventional people. I'm Ken Basco. I use they, them pronouns. I'm 20-something years old. I got my bachelor's in ITI at the Rutgers School of Communication and Information in 2019. Most of my work involves organizing information, creating information, as well as helping people engage with information. Now, I chose instructional design because technology and education is confusing no matter where you go. I wanted a career as creative as the arts, but also as financially secure as being a technologist. And originally, I wanted to become a game designer, but then my game design teacher told me I could address the above issues as well as address important issues in education as an instructional designer. Now, today I'm going to show you instruction can come from video games, social media, and even your very own household objects. Now, this is the first room of a game called Cave Story, and what immediately draws your attention is these red objects. So now you have a goal that's kind of proposed, and you have the main stage screen is black, huh? Well, I guess I'm going to keep going. So you have a goal, you try to make your way towards your goal, and then in making your way towards your goal, you might fall into a pit of water where your air meter starts to go down. Higher ground, you make this association immediately that higher ground is towards your objective, and lower ground means out of your objective into danger. Now, when you try to make your way to those red objects, you learn that your life is refilled and that you get to how to save your progress in your game. And in learning how to jump and move around in the level, you are able to recollect and kind of practice this knowledge and exiting the level at the door at the top. Now, level design is really cool because it didn't have to give you any explicit instructions or directions on what to do. You're kind of just in this constrained space, kind of experimenting. Now, what just happened? Something immediately caught your eye. There was an objective and there was a challenge proposed. There was a means of feedback. You got to practice all these different skills in safety through these slopes and platforms in the level. And you were able to recall that knowledge by concluding, by going to the end of the level. Something really wonderful is that this is actually an existing instructional framework called Gagne's 9 Events of Instruction, where once again, a problem was proposed. You were given the means to practice and recall that knowledge, and there was a sense of resolution in exiting the level. Something that we can do very similar to what games do in delivering instruction is kind of communicate things in a very implicit way and give executive control with the students of what can or cannot be seen or what type of information they can be engaged with. Something we can do is structure our learning modules by first having something that draws student attention, create a low-stakes experience in experimenting with that knowledge, and give an opportunity for recalling said knowledge and practicing it. Speaking of structure, what do these have in common? First, we have my Twitter feed, some blocks of cheese, and some numbers to remember for later. These are all examples of chunking. Tweets are sizable reading material. You can stop at 3 or maybe even 10 blocks of cheese. You don't have to commit to eating an entire cheese wheel, and we can associate numbers by grouping them together, so we don't have to remember too many different orders. Social media is really great because by the time you think about reading something, you've already read it, and it makes things a lot less intimidating when you chunk information the way social media does. Learning happens on social media all the time. My friend was doing this Instagram story about how she made these baby doll head earrings and went through each individual step as well as the tool and techniques on how she made them. Matt Curtis is a UI UX designer on Twitter. He does a good example of explaining something and having visual aids that separate each thing he's talking about. Leslie Lai was creating this self-guided graphics programming curriculum, which is a good example of kind of bundling information into all these different chunks and providing external links to said material. Now, the best benefit of chunking is that it makes information less daunting for students, and this gives us opportunity to revisit our course content throughout the week. For teachers, it's just easier to manage all our stuff and it forces us to be more concise on what we think and how we write what we're teaching to align with our learning objectives. My personal attempts at chunking was I created my own activity through a Twitter feed, but then I got really shy, so I ended up creating this web-based tool that would limit everything I said into 180 characters or less, which helped me to be more focused and concise to my writing. Something that we can do is find maybe some writing that we wrote previously. It could be a lecture or some prose, and ask ourselves, can it be broken into parts? And if so, maybe rewrite it in a bulleted list. Speaking of communication, mugs, medicine bottles, and vacuum cleaners are really good at teaching people how to communicate. Mugs are really cool because the first thing that draws your attention is actually this void, and you think to yourself, oh, maybe I could put things in it. And immediately you kind of know, like, oh, it has a handle, I can control it. And mugs don't come with instructions. You can kind of just use them, and you take whatever experience you get from them. If you want to use it to hold water, that's cool. If you want to use it to deflect water, that's also cool. Speaking of communication, a really good form of communication is having your information superimposed on whatever object you want to interact with. A good example is directions on the tops of medicine bottles. And something that I've seen in Canvas is this module template that instructors can put into their courses that has this form of signage that communicates like what an instructional module is and how you can use it in Canvas. Speaking of customizing your experiences, vacuum cleaner parts are also really good at this because you could swap out accessories to fit the vacuuming experience that you need. And I use this to teach my friend how to build web pages, where I would create all my lectures in the form of a web page. And by the end of the week, I would tell them, now change my web page to make it say whatever you want. And they defaced my lecture. They made me say very obscene things that I can't show in this professional context. But the point is that they were able to engage with the content, with the knowledge in a way that was very personal to them. Something that we can do is create learning materials that provide a sense of feedback, maybe in an ungraded quiz with answers at the end. Use the header options in Canvas as a form of signage, as opposed to like a getting started page and how to interact with this module. And make your lecture something students can comment on top of. This can be like a discussion, your lecture being your discussion post. That way it has a comment section. In review, get inspired by familiar things in unfamiliar places, make things that other people can take apart, and give yourself space to kind of step back from your instruction and give opportunities where students and teachers can kind of regurgitate what you're doing throughout the day. Here's some additional readings I couldn't include due to time constraints. And here's a lot of people I'd like to thank. Here's my contact information if you'd like to give me an opportunity, or if you just want to talk to me about anything, just text me. I don't know, email me, Twitter me. Thank you.